Right, so we're going to go through the basics of Rhino this morning. So first step is to open Rhino. Okay, when Rhino opens, yours will probably come up looking like this. So with the templates on the right hand side here. Generally we want to use large object millimeters for everything that we do, so double click that guy and then you get Rhino open here. So in Rhino you have 4 viewports, so top, front, right and perspective. Okay, so generally you leave them all open. You can maximize and minimize viewports, so if you double click on one that will make it full size of the screen, and you can either double click here or you can click this button here and it takes you back to this. Okay, one of the first things that you're going to need to do when you come into Rhino for the first time is to turn on these snaps, which are down on the left hand side here. So the ones I usually have on are go all the way down to intersection, and you'll see why that is necessary in just a second. So we're going to draw our first shape. Okay, so up here you've got line tools. The next two here are surface tools, and then these two are solid tools. So to start with, we're just going to draw a box, a flat two-dimensional box. So I'm going to click this. Rhino will always ask you what it wants you to do in this box up here. So at the moment it's asking me for the first corner of the rectangle. So if I click there, now it's asking me for the other corner, and I click over here, and now I have a rectangle. Now say I wanted to draw another rectangle in here, I would click this box. Now when I come down here you will notice that it's bouncing to places. So at the moment it's bouncing to the center of the box. If I then move down here it's bouncing to the near and it's bouncing to the mid. So if I turn midpoint off it will no longer snap to the middle of this. Another thing that you can do to temporarily disable that is to hold down the Alt button. If you hold down Alt, there we go, holding the wrong button. If you hold down Alt you'll notice these all go grey and it will no longer snap stuff. So snapping is really important to make sure that your object is lining up with the other objects that you've drawn. So if I draw on here, another box. Okay. You can scroll around inside views by clicking and dragging with your right mouse button. Okay. And you can zoom in and out by using the scroll wheel on your mouse if you have a mouse. It makes it a lot easier to work on Rhino with a mouse. Okay. In your three-dimensional view you can zoom in and out, scroll wheel, and with the right click you can rotate around. If you want to move that view, you have to hold down Shift, and Shift then allows you to move that view side to side the same way as this does. If you right click, you get to rotate the view here. Okay, so very basic shape here. Now I don't know what size I've drawn this shape, which is slightly problematic. So generally we are drawing objects to be a certain size. So I'm going to delete this. Now I'm going to show you two ways of selecting an object. If I drag a box from the left hand side of the screen to the right hand side of the screen, it will select everything that's inside the box. So the only thing that is completely inside the box is this square here. So if I drag like this, it will select only that one box. If I drag from the right to the left of the screen, it will select everything that that box touches, which will be both boxes. So I do that, I hit delete, and I'm going to start again. Okay, so this time I'm going to draw a solid box. So if I click here, this is my solid box. If I click and hold any of these that have a little arrow, it gives you all these other shapes that you can draw. But we're just going to start with a simple box. So it asks me for the first corner of the base. So I click once. Now it's asking me for the next corner. I can either click or I can write a number in here. So if I say 100 millimeters, enter, my box is now 100 millimeters wide. if I put it in 100 millimeters, sorry, it was 100 millimeters long, now it's going to be 100 millimeters wide, and it's going to be 50 millimeters in height. So I have drawn a box that is 100 that way, 100 that way, and 50 coming out of the screen in this view here. But I can't see everything, so I can roll out with my scroll button on my mouse, and then I can see everything. Or a very handy shortcut that I use all the time is if you just start writing on your keyboard, it will automatically take you up to this box. So if I hit Z for zoom, now I can either press enter or I can press the space bar. They do the same thing. And then you see how that all has got a little highlight under the A. So I hit A and then E. What that does is it zooms all the windows to the extents of the drawing. So one more time, that was Z, A, E. Okay. Then I can see my box that I've drawn. You'll see up in this perspective view at the moment, or in all the views actually, that the box is completely see-through. Generally I work with these views as see-through views and this view as a rendered view. So to access this, if you right click where it says perspective, you can change this to rendered. Oops, sorry, not rendered, shaded. So shaded allows you to see the box coloured in on the sides. You've got other options, so ghosted. Ghosted allows you to kind of see through the box, which is sometimes useful, sometimes not. Rendered, the one I first clicked, this is when we start applying materials to the object, so we can apply wood or metal and then make it look pretty up in here. So it's kind of hard to see the edges of your box though when you're in rendered, so if you go back to shaded, I think it's easier to see the box. So imagine we were trying to draw a little house from this. Perhaps we could then click and hold this over here. We could choose a pyramid, and so in this up here it's asking for, the first thing it's asking for is the center of the pyramid, and it's telling me here that the number of sides is 5. So if I click the number of sides, I can change this to 4 because I have a 4-sided box. Press enter. It's asking me for the center, so if I move my mouse to here, you can see that I'm not going to be able to find the center of this box. Okay, it's not snapping to the center. Okay, a way of finding the center, so we're going to cancel out of this, we're going to press escape, is to draw a line from the middle of this side to the middle of this side. Okay, so if I just get the line tool, and I can either work up here. One of the hard things now about I have a 3-dimensional box is I don't know whether or not that midpoint is on this top line here. Let's do it on this side so you can see. I don't know if I'm clicking there or if I'm clicking down the bottom here, because these two midpoints are stacked up on top of each other in that view. So I'm going to work in the 3D view for this, and I'm going to click the midpoint of there, and I'm going to click the midpoint of there. Then I'm going to press enter, and I have now applied that line there in the middle of the box. So now when I go back into here and I create a pyramid, number of sides 4, and it's asking me for the center. If I move my mouse on this line, you will see it will snap to the midpoint, and the midpoint of that is the center of this whole box. So I click once, then my box, my pyramid base is coming out here. If I hold down shift, it seems to do it on 45 degrees, which isn't particularly useful, but we can fix that later. Or I can come out here and I can click on the endpoint, which will put the base of the pyramid the same size as the base of the box. Okay, now this is where you need to work in another view, so come down to the front view, click up how far you want the pyramid to go, click once, and then you have a pyramid on top of a box. Okay, that's as far as this tutorial will go. So have a go, see if you can draw yourself a pyramid on top of a box. The next one will show you a little bit more about how to add and subtract shapes to one another to make more complex objects. Okay, thanks everyone, bye.